Bringing in now Andreas Krieg, Associate Professor at the School of Security Studies at King's College in London. Professor Krieg, can the U.S., or anyone else for that matter, enforce freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz right now?
The simple answer is no. Ultimately, there is no, we've seen this over the last 4 months or so, there is no military solution to the Strait of Hormuz issue. If Iran really wanted to, if aggression, coercion, deterrence is what Iran wants to do, it can do this with very little, very low cost for itself. And hence it has already established the fact that they have sovereignty over this waterway. Now, we are in a phase of reconciliation or rapprochement between the GCC states and Iran. There have been, obviously, there's a rapprochement between the US and Iran. So we're in a different climate now where both sides want to build a, trust and also show goodwill. And so the hope is here that, the Iranians are climbing down from that very high horse they were riding on, where they were saying this is full sovereignty, we will manage this trade, and the GCC will have no real say in any of that. Obviously, Oman has a say in it because they own the sovereignty on the other side. Point being is the Americans are onlookers to this. The Americans want, especially Donald Trump, wants to move on from this conflict. He wants to go back doing something else, and ultimately will leave the GCC to sort this out. And so there's been a lot of haggling and going back and forth between the various actors in the GCC to try to see what is possible. Because ultimately, the idea was a couple of weeks ago that the Iranians wanted money out of it because they wanted to rebuild. Now we're talking about financial retribution to Iran already, a major package being put together. So it's not really about money anymore. I think for Iran at this point, this is about ego, it's about prestige, showing that this is a spoil of war in many ways, that they have that sovereignty. But whether the sovereignty can be and will be enforced through the raising of fees or some sort of toll system, that is now questionable. It's quite clear the GCC is not going to have it, and it's also quite clear that the Omanis do not want to do anything on their own. They will follow the sort of consensus that's building within the Gulf.
So as we speak, the IMO, International Maritime Organization, which is the United Nations Maritime Agency, the IMO has set up what they're calling an evacuation plan because there were hundreds of ships stuck inside the Gulf, and they're trying to get them out of the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. And the IRGC has said they cannot use the southern route. In other words, the maritime route that hugs the coast of Oman. They want ships to use the northern route that hugs the coast of Iran because it gives them more control. My question is, can Iran's Revolutionary Guard enforce this? Can they force ships away from the coast of Oman and towards the coast of Iran?
Absolutely. I mean, they have hundreds of small skiffs and boats that can still go out, that they're very difficult to target from the air, very difficult to target by the US Navy. If they really want to go back to coercion, that this is something they can do. It would undermine anything that's been built in a fairly positive climate in Switzerland over the last week, where we've seen some progress also on the tactical level towards this end. So it's really about resolve at this point. Shipping companies might decide to use the southern route in Oman, where there are additional issues. There's the issue of mining as well, so it's not an easy transit. And so, shipping companies and insurers might tell shipping companies to go through the northern route anyway. But my guess at the moment would be the Iranians would not necessarily harass shipping that would go through the southern corridor in the next 60 days because it would undermine the premise on basis of which this MOU was put together.
Do Gulf countries have a say, do Gulf countries have a say in any of this because it is primarily trade towards their population that comes in through the strait, and it is their energy that goes out through the strait?
Look, if Iran is interested in a deal, if Iran is interested in rapprochement and reconciliation, we've now had talks where Saudi is supposed to host a GCC Iranian reconciliation summit, so we're going already in this direction. There are efforts to get the Iraqis involved as well, and a sort of common understanding with Iran that this waterway is not just a passage through the Strait of Hormuz, but involves the Persian Gulf as well, and both sides of it, Iran, the GCC, plus Iraq. So an understanding of a mechanism to manage maritime security in this waterway, including the Strait of Hormuz, including Iraq, including Iran and the GCC, means that there is effort to kind of trade, horse trading going on, where they're saying, okay, Iran wants X, we'll give it to you, but in return we want Iran to allow us free passage and freedom of navigation. There is a scenario whereby Iran could say, we have official sovereignty, we will not raise any fees, we will not raise any tolls, and we will maintain a very close rapport with the GCC states, particularly with Oman. Oman might lead on that element within the GCC to make sure that there's deconfliction. And there is a lot of leverage that the Gulf states have in financial and economic terms. And if Iran wants to rebuild, that money ultimately will come from the Gulf. And that is a kind of token that the GCC will hold in front of them.
Andreas Krieg, Associate Professor at the School of Security Studies at King's College London. Thank you very much.